Hi, this is Sabrina Vourvoulias, and I'm going to be reading from my novella, Plena Cucuy. And since I'm starting in the middle, somewhere in the middle of it, I'm going to tell you just a little bit of background. Kat is a young mestiza Mexican-American designer at a news organization, and the only citizen in her family of mixed documentation status. She's an acute observer of the city she inhabits, including some inexplicable happenings, like an advertising placard at the train station that changes content between one glance at it and the next, or the disappearance of her brother Edgar and other undocumented folks from one of the train station platforms. Add to that she's got a complicated relationship with her family, and the black Boricua musician she's falling for, and there are intra-Latinx tensions in the neighborhood. All of this becomes Plena Cucuy. So now the story. She goes to work a couple of hours early to escape the atmosphere at the apartment. After the initial hyper-energized search attempts, Elisa has sunk into a kind of apathetic funk. Kat was only 7 when her mother was detained and deported, and she remembers everyone going through something like that then too, but it doesn't make it any easier to be around. The newsroom is empty when Kat enters, except for one of the reporters, Tom, eating at his desk and staring into the desktop monitor. "Hey, kitty cat," he says, looking up as she walks in. "You're super early." "You too," she says. "Got a city council meeting to cover tonight, so I gotta jump over onto other stories I have to file," he says, wiping the grease trails of his pizza off the desk with his sleeve. He's a big guy, and with his dark hair and soul patch, he pulls off the Cesar Rojas in his heyday style really well, Kat thinks. But he's Anglo, hasn't earned the look, and the first time it gives him trouble, he'll shed it faster than a raincoat sheds water. "Hey, you ever heard of people disappearing from the city's train stations?" she asks. "What, like alien abductions or something?" "No, like missing persons. Like the last time they were seen was at the train station." "Nope," he says. "Why? You think there's a story in it?" She hears interest creep into his voice. "Yeah, maybe." "I'll check it out for you, kitty cat," he says. "But don't tell any of the others, okay?" She nods, smiles at herself as she walks over to the desk she'll work from tonight. Reporters. No one in the world is more competitive. For once, they make their press time, despite Tom filing the city council story a mere 7 minutes from close. Since they're out a full half hour before the bar shut, Anna Lee, the new managing editor, treats them to beers. Tom slides into the booth next to Kat. 56, he says. "What?" 56 missing person reports filed so far this year, which mention the person was last seen waiting on a train platform, he answers. "I asked my cop friend." "Latinos? Immigrants?" He gives her a strange look. "Yeah, most of them our age, or maybe a little older." "And the cops haven't bothered to investigate?" "I think my cop friend is going to look into it now," he says defensively. She nods, drains her glass. "Gotta catch my train," she says, as she gets up to leave. Tom grabs her arm. "I'll drive you." The ride takes longer than she expects. Tom's Crown Vic rides like a boat, but stalls if it idles too long at a light. It's almost 3 a.m. when they pull up in front of the apartment building. Tom tries to kiss her goodnight, but redeems himself somewhat by seeming genuinely remorseful when she smacks him and gets out. Elvis is sitting in the stoop, picking at the strings on what Kat now knows is a tiple, though not the mermaid one she's seen before. Your boyfriend? Elvis asks when she slams the car door and walks up to him. Friend, acquaintance, co-worker, she answers, then sits down next to him. What are you doing here so late, and on the immigrant side of the neighborhood divide? Not late for me, and I was waiting for you. Yeah? Yeah. Your Elisa and La Marcy had a cat fight right out on the street today. Can't say I'm surprised. And your brother's so drunk I don't think he noticed it was me who helped him keep him upright as he stumbled up the stairs, he says, playing a quick progression of notes. I wish it were Edgar you were talking about. You know what? Me too. He stops playing and starts to get up. Wait, she says. My friend says there are nearly 60 people have disappeared off the city train platforms. Did he tell you what line they were catching? No. The 7, Mommy, he says. He seems to be waiting for some sort of reaction from her. She's not sure whether it's to the information or to the fact that he's used the affectionate terms Puerto Ricans reserve for loved ones. He gets tired of waiting. All of them disappear off the platforms waiting for the 7. Yeah, so? He laughs. Don't you read your own paper? I scan what I need from the stories to figure out which photos to run, she says. That's pretty much it. I didn't think anyone else really read the paper either. I do, sometimes. Like that piece on the resurgence of graffiti in the trains. Yeah, Tom wrote that. The freelance photographer he worked with got some great pics, too. So many, in fact, I didn't bother to go through the whole Dropbox file. I just picked out the first 3 that caught my eye. You didn't run a photo of this graffiti, Elvis says. But remember how toward the end of the article it mentions that all the trains that run on the 7 are tagged top to bottom by one person? She shakes her head. It means one person owns that line, he says. That someone has claimed it as his own. Okay, that's kind of creepy. Did Tom's article mention who? No, but I've seen the tag in person, so I know. El Cucuy. The 7 has been claimed by El Cucuy. She shrugs, doesn't recognize the name. Ask your brother about him, Elvis says, as he crosses back onto the Puerto Rican side. She hears him playing the tiple as he walks to his outdoor stairway. It's an interesting little tune he plays, simple and folksy in the way of so much Spanish traditional music, until suddenly it isn't simple, nor Spanish, nor traditional. For all that he's just one man strumming on a ridiculously small stringed instrument as he walks away, Cat hears a multitude. El Cucuy is the Mexican bogeyman. Cat tries not to roll her eyes when Roberto tells her. He's so hungover he's missed work for the first time in 5 years. They're sitting on the stoop, testing Roberto's theory that the sunny day will cook the laggard alcohol out of his system. He's uncomfortable sitting out there with her, and not only because of the hangover. Elvis sits on the stoop also, and Cat is the small buffer zone between them. Our parents used to threaten to summon El Cucuy whenever Edgar and I misbehaved, Robert tells Cat. I guess he changes shape according to the teller, but Ama always described him as having cold eyes and a mouthful of sharp teeth. He steals kids. I think he eats them. Or sells them at the market, Elvis says. At least that's what El Cuco, the Puerto Rican version of El Cucuy, does. Robert nods, lips thinned to a tight line, but he doesn't look at Elvis, just a Cat. So how come I don't remember Mom threatening me with them, Cat asks. You were born here. Monsters don't cross borders, Roberto says, with the ghost of a smile. Plus, you were well behaved and obedient when it was not Ma making the rules. She's tempted to laugh at this disapproval implicit in his words. Poor Roberto, she thinks. It's hard to exert moral authority when you've fallen so far and so publicly off the wagon. All right then, she says. So you're saying some guy's pretending he's El Cucuy and that he's targeting people he thinks are quote-unquote misbehaving? Something like that, Elvis says. You're the newspaper person. You can find out, Roberto says at the same time. I'm a designer and a layout person, she says, exasperated. I'm really good at gaming the content management system and creating eye-catching web pages to target special content to. Or at color correcting the photos so they'll look decent in print with the newspaper's dot game. Those aren't exactly the skills needed to investigate things. So ask your boyfriend, Elvis says, with a small but wicked smile. Boyfriend? Roberto turns to Kat. Big white guy, Elvis adds, addressing Roberto directly for the first time. A reporter she works with. Kat glares at Elvis. He's getting her in trouble on purpose. Anglos only ever want one thing from a Mexican girl, Roberto says with finality. Stay away from him. Fine. Guess I'll have to ride the 7 until I meet this Cucuy myself, she says. No, they both say at the same time. She gets up, leaves the two men staring uncomfortably at each other as she stomps up the stairs. She's furious, but it doesn't escape her notice that it's the first time they've agreed on anything. They look first at the placard, then at her watch. One reads 3:25, the other is a minute behind, like always. You can't go over there. That's one of Gert's unbreakable rules, Matt says. Pigeon Lou, who's standing beside them without invitation, nods in agreement. I don't care what Gert thinks, but I promise you, I won't get on the train, Kat says. I just want to check out the platform. It's too risky for any of us to go over there, Matt says. She's moved by the thought that he's included her in that us, but that doesn't quiet her curiosity. Why risky? Spider, Matt says, almost in a whisper. Always hoping to bite us, to hurt Gert. She laughs without intending to. She's insulted him by doing so and wishes she could take it back when she sees him walk away. He lays down on his usual bench and doesn't say another word to her, no matter how much she apologizes. She stares at the black soles of Edgar's restaurant shoes on Matt's feet. They haven't given up on Edgar coming home, or making his way to their mom in Mexico if he's been deported. But Elisa's given Kat permission to give worn or duplicate items to her homeless friends at the station. Spiders. Lou nods his head, still standing beside her. He's wearing Edgar's second-best Puebla FC soccer shirt over his filthy hoodie. They set out webs, you know. You don't think they're webs until you walk into them. Then he also leaves her to stretch out on his bench. When Kat heads to the stairs to change platforms, the only homeless person following her progress is Gert, tucked tightly into Edgar's too big but too expensive to throw away leather jacket. Their eyes meet momentarily. Then Gert turns to Danny and buries her face in his broad shoulder. None of Edgar's clothing is big enough to fit Danny, except his socks. Their stark white draws a bright line where they peek out from under his grungy jeans. The 7th platform is the same as the 9th platform, except there are no homeless people here. In fact, there are no people at all. After walking the length of the platform, Kat sits at an empty bench near the ad that has obsessed her. She hears a train arrive at her platform but doesn't get up to watch it pull out of the station. She's committed to staying on the platform until the 7 pulls in, though now she wishes she had checked the schedule to see how long her wait will be. After some 15 or 20 minutes, a girl comes down the stairs to the platform. She gives Kat a slight smile as she passes her, going to stand at the far end. She's dressed in scrubs and cheerful yellow duck pattern, and shoes with thick white rubber soles. In addition to a backpack, she carries a tote bag with a logo from a healthcare company Kat vaguely remembers is located in one of the counties that abut the city. Her hair is wet, as if she's just come out of the shower. When more people come to stand at the platform, all of them look as if they're up early to go to work, rather than late getting back. Almost 45 minutes into the wait, someone sits on the bench beside her. He's dressed in a dark suit that's perfectly tailored to his lean, long build. He's both very attractive. He has an angular face with prominent cheekbones and jaw in perfect proportions, and also a bit repellent, in the same way as Kat finds Michael Fassbender or the young David Bowie attractive but repellent. There's definitely something feral about him, Kat thinks. She can't figure out if it's the look in his eyes, or the mossy musk smell of his cologne, or the way he's eased his body down into the bench with the grace and economy of a cat that's always prepped to stalk. But her mouth floods with the taste of iron in response. "You have the time?" he asks her. "Just about 4, she answers, after glancing at her watch. "It's not right," he says, looking over her shoulder. At the ad placard, she assumes. "You've noticed?" she asks. "I've decided it's an ad campaign for a watch company. Eventually there'll be a picture of a Rolex or something." He answers. Then says, "You don't really interest me, you know." She's startled into silence. He gets up, walks towards the knot of people further down the platform. Many of them wear the same kind of shoes as Edgar and Roberto, which makes them restaurant workers, she thinks. The other people on the platform wear Timberlands that Black and Latino students favor. And despite the fact that everyone's got earbuds hanging out of their ears, some of them chat with each other in the amiable but distant way of those who daily catch the same train. Kat sees the man approach the first girl, the one Kat has decided is a home health aide. "You have the time?" She hears him ask her. Kat sees the girl glance down at her watch, then answer him in a lilting, softly accented voice. Not a Mexican Spanish accent, Kat thinks. Central American. Salvadoreña, maybe. The man looks pleased. Freak, Kat thinks. When the 7 screams into the station, Kat's eyes are trapped by the web of lines painted on its side. She's amazed by the artistry and magnitude of the graffiti. This is no mere tag, but a master's piece lined with tangled, interconnected letters. There's a spider painted in blue, azul añil, her mother used to call the shade, with nasty fangs, clawed legs, and sharp spinnerets from which the letters of the tag shoot out onto a creepy, all-encompassing web. She doesn't move from her place on the bench as people start loading into the cars. Through the window, she sees the home health aide walking from one car to the next, the man following close behind. He stops at the door still open in front of Kat and looks out at her. His smile grows as the seconds tick away. Before the doors close, he taps his watch and his face splits into an open-mouthed grin. His teeth are white, very white, and filed to sharp, cruel points. Run, Kat wants to scream at people, but her mouth won't open. Before the train gains speed and pulls out of sight, she sees the man take his seat beside the girl. Matt and Pigeon Lou sit up when they hear her come through the door to the 9's platform. "Did you see the spider?" Matt asks her. She nods, sits beside him. "Good thing you didn't get caught," Lou says, speaking to a point just left of her ear. Then he sits beside her also. They lean in, sandwich her between them. She feels their fragrant body heat migrating to her unnerved body, seeping into her pores. After a few minutes, she says, "The time's changed." Lou and Matt follow her eyes, caught on the placard on the platform for the 7. 4:25. "You must have read it wrong before," Matt says. Lou nods. They look down at her wrist as she turns it over to stare at the watch face nestled there. 4:24. Thank you. Let me know what you think. I believe that there's going to be some sort of back and forth on Discord, and I'm interested in answering your questions. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening.